Well, welcome back. You have done it again. A new episode of Coffee with Humans, a live stream broadcast where I meet a new friend. So today, my new friend is Anna Leonarda. She is the founder or creator of Entwine Dating, which is a cool app, which we're going to learn about. I know nothing about it. And so welcome to the show, Anna.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for having me.
We've got an interesting title today, Dating with Sexual Dysfunction. Two things which are difficult. Right? Even taken separately, dating, difficult, sexual dysfunction, difficult, putting them together. I hope you're some sort of an expert in this matter. And if not, we'll learn something anyhow. But first question, why did you choose to click the button to have coffee with me?
Well, I was searching for podcasts because this is actually a new launched app. And I wanted to see what's the best way to getting my word out about Entwine. And I wanted to find somebody that's laid back and easy to get along with and has a good sense of humor. And then I found you and I thought, this is perfect.
Easy, laid back, and a good sense of humor. I'll take it. You don't even know me.
I don't.
Before the broadcast, you also said you've never watched an episode.
I did. Yeah, part of it. I did. Yeah.
Which is fine. There's no judgment in that. That's like, I don't know you either, which is great because especially when you're talking about dating, because the first step of dating is to get to know somebody. I'm like, doing business with somebody is know, like, and trust, and probably dating is pretty similar, right? Know, like, and trust, and we're in the getting to know you stage, which yes. I think is fun, right?
Yeah, it is fun, right?
Okay, well, welcome to Coffee with Humans. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So, dating with sexual dysfunction, where's that come from? It's a pretty deep topic.
It is. And I was actually married for 20 years. I met my ex-husband when I was in 8th grade. So I was with one person all my life. And I had endometriosis, which is a condition that can cause painful intercourse. And it also, eventually over time, I ended up developing a condition called vaginismus, which is another word. The way I describe it is my vagina broke. And intercourse became impossible because just the pain was too intense. And I went to the doctor. They told me, okay, well, you have vaginismus, is what it's called, and you have the opening of your vagina is involuntary. The muscles is involuntary contracting, and it's just because of over time your vagina basically got scared of anything getting close to it because it just right away it associates internal penetration with pain. So I started going for therapy, and it was a very slow process to get it to fix it. And then I got breast cancer, and I was 36 years old. I found a breast lump in the shower. I ended up having 6 surgeries for reconstruction. I went through chemotherapy. I lost all my hair. The oncologist told me, your libido is going to get worse. And I said, well, it's not even possible. I mean, I can't even have intercourse right now. So I stopped doing my therapy because I thought, let me focus on getting rid of my cancer first. So after the chemo and the surgeries, I ended up having a total hysterectomy as well. So I was 36 years old. I was forced into menopause and just vaginal dryness, all these issues. And so 2 years ago, I ended up so I'm a 9-year breast cancer survivor, but 2 years ago, I got divorced. And I thought, how am I going to go on a regular dating app, a traditional dating app? How am I going to tell a guy that I can't have intercourse? I can't say sex because sex could be anything. It could be oral. There's other ways of having intimacy. And I thought, well, it's just easier to be single because it's embarrassing to have to tell somebody that I can't have intercourse. And I don't want to be embarrassed and I don't want to be rejected. And then I thought, my friends have been going on dating apps for a while, and they would say like men have ED and they don't tell me until the last minute. And then they make up excuses. And I just wish that they would just be honest. And I thought, well, at the time I was married. And I said, why don't you just save the guy's number? Because, if I ever get divorced, I'd rather be with a guy that can't have intercourse because that just takes all this pressure off of me. And that's when I got divorced. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do? Should I stay single? And I said, no, that's not fair. What about the guys that have ED? What about those guys that my friends dated that they got rejected and they're embarrassed? They have to have all that pressure of anxiety of to have to tell someone that they have this issue. So that's when I said, I got to do something about it. There's a reason why I got breast cancer. I didn't know what it was at the time, but this is the reason, is to help other people. So I created a dating app that takes the sexual expectations out of dating. And it creates a comfortable place for individuals to be able to date without having to feel that they're going to be rejected or embarrassed because they have these limitations, because they deserve to be loved too. And there's other forms of intimacy that would be okay for other people. They don't need to have intercourse.
Wow. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is I want to honor you for your courage, right? I mean, this is a difficult topic to address even in private scenarios, much less to make something like this public, and then not only make it public for yourself, but then also to push the boundaries of what people want to talk about.
Right.
To go so far as to create a space where people can connect, because relationships are difficult, and
Yeah.
and they're difficult when things are, quote unquote, perfect, much less when you stick something in there as intricately important and connected to our psyche and our bodies as sex. So it's huge thing that you're doing. How has the journey been so far? I'm guessing, I'm putting together this picture in my mind of you dealing with these issues, and then you think I'm gonna start approaching this in public and do something about it. What was that feeling like?
As far as like trying to tell them what my app is about,
trying to figure out, how do I bring this to light? I'm getting over embarrassment for one thing, to make this public and do something about it, not only for yourself but for others. What was that process like?
It was a little difficult because at first I was like, okay, I'm an introvert. I don't go out anywhere. I was like, I never want to. I'm really shy, and and then when I was married, I never went out. So then after I got divorced, I'm like, well, I need to start going out more. And then I was thinking about my app too. And then I became a karaoke whore. So I love doing karaoke. That's my outlet. I love doing it. I don't know if everybody else likes it, but I don't care.
I love karaoke.
I mean, as far as people that hear me, I don't know if they like it or not. But
okay.
So I go like every other week when I don't have my kids and stuff. But so then I just started meeting people. I started meeting new guys and stuff, and they would hit on me, and I would be like, I don't know if you want my number. Let me tell you about an app that I'm creating. And then they're like, oh. I said, well, my vagina's broken. Basically, I could do anything else. I just don't want to have intercourse. And so then I started. First, it was a little intimidating to say it, but I'm like, I need to be honest, because I can't be shy about this, because then I'm not gonna be able to help these other people that are still sitting silently if I'm just gonna be shy. So I made a lot of guys uncomfortable, but there are a lot of jerks out there. So when I started telling them, oh, by the way, I can't have intercourse, and they're like, well, you have other holes, right? And I'm like, wow, other holes. Yeah, that's real classy. Yeah, I mean, it's just, or they try to say, oh, you should do anal. I'm like, well, what if I don't want to do anal? And why do I have to talk to you about that? Makes me uncomfortable, because I'm like, you don't start talking about what I'm okay with. What are my limitations? So another guy would say like, oh, you have the perfect reason why a guy wouldn't want to be with you. And then, and I don't get upset. I don't cry and everything, because I'm like, well, I laugh, because I'm like, thank you for confirming why this is a reason why I should be doing this app, So it's uncomfortable, but I think it's also uncomfortable for the person I'm telling it to that doesn't have the sexual expectation or the sexual limitation, but also they may have it and they just don't want to tell me that either,
Yeah, for sure. Well, nobody wants to talk about this kind of stuff, and it's difficult. I mean, I think a lot of people deal with shame, the shame stories of who I am as an individual. And then when that shame story is confirmed by another person, as ignorantly or even intentionally, that can send I think a person down into a deeper spiral where it's just difficult to get out of one's head and understand one's self-worth. I am curious, dating has changed pretty significantly, I think. The fact that intercourse and sex is kind of one of the leading things, rather than, hey, I'd love to get to know you, I'd love to understand you and know you on a deeper level than, just the fact that our bodies work together. How has been your experience as you have approached this topic? And I think you touched on it a little bit as you approach this topic publicly, and then with the dating app. What kind of stories have you heard from people in terms of how they make connections in new ways, with this limitation in place?
I find that, well, for my app, if it's within my app, the users, I just started this. This launched a couple of months ago, so there's not that many
Okay.
users there yet. So I haven't had any interaction with the users, but
Mhm.
uh, I know that there's a lot of people that would tell me, like, I haven't gone on any dates yet because I usually everything gets shut down because right away they know I have this issue. So I was told by some friends, don't tell anybody that you have that issue first. First, go on the date and meet them, and then get to know them better. Then tell them what your issue is. Give them the chance to get to know you first because they may not
Yeah.
care. And I said, that's not fair though, because then I'm emotionally attached, and then they're emotionally attached, and then if they may say, okay, I don't care, but then maybe they do care, and then they're gonna end up cheating on me, or it's I think it's just embarrassing. It's very intimidating for a regular dating app. I think with my app, I haven't signed up with it yet, but I think eventually I will because it's it just takes so much pressure off the table right away that you don't have to worry when you sign up for Entwine. You know that intercourse is not a possibility, so it just gets rid of that
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah. No, I believe that makes sense, to meet in a safe space, right?
Mhm.
It's I want to say it's kind of as simple, and I know that the whole of relationships and individuals and dating and all that stuff is anything but simple. But I think there is that simple principle of am I with my people? And
Mhm.
we tend to group in um, with our people, right? The people who are like us, and it would seem that with such a difficult topic to approach and a controversial topic, just depending on who you might go off and meet, like you say, it could be a big deal for somebody, it could be not a big deal for somebody, but how would you know? And it's sort of a crapshoot. It makes sense to me, right? To create that space for people where they can meet one another. You mentioned it's only been out live for several months. How has it been getting users on the platform?
That's the tricky part because a lot of people don't like to talk about it. So
Yeah.
if I tell one person, some guy that I just met, hey, do you know anybody of your friends that have ED? I bet you don't, and they don't, but they might have like 3 or 4. It's just they're very embarrassed. And I didn't actually meet somebody that said, yeah, I have this. One of my friends said that he was really embarrassed because he had like a performance performance anxiety ED, I think it's called, and after that, he never wanted to go on a date again, so he just stays single. So I'm
Wow.
like, has he gone on a date again? And he's like, no, he hasn't. He's just it just ruined him. And he has this problem maybe because he has prostate cancer or he had antidepressant medication can cause it. Doesn't even have to be cancer, And and it's just imagine all that. It's, it can tear somebody apart if they heard that, or got rejected because of it. So getting the word out is hard because nobody really wants to talk about it. But I'm trying to reach out to the therapists, mental health therapists, even physical therapists for pelvic floor
Mm.
therapists, and even cardiologists because it could be cardiac conditions, it could be diabetes that can cause ED. So it's social media and podcasts, joining but as many podcasts as I can just to get the word out, and it's a free app, and it'll have premium features available at a minimal charge down the road. But uh, again, it's just a matter of getting it out on the word. Like if I'm part of a vaginismus group in Facebook, and there's 17,000 women on there, and that's the vaginismus is my broken vagina thing, and so I would go on there and I wouldn't be able to post anything about Entwine. Someone would say like my husband left me, my boyfriend left me. He got tired of waiting because he can't have sex, and I can't just go on there and just type, no, there's a dating app. Don't stay single because of it. They'll just kick me out. So Facebook's very hard to market my app. Instagram, uh, it seems like it's a little bit easier. But I'm just trying to get a hold of everybody at once because in order for the app to be successful is to have users. And so that's been a little bit of a challenge, but it's end of August that it went live. So it hasn't been too
Yeah.
long, but we have about 38 users right now, though. It's better than nothing,
Okay.
right? It's getting there.
Well,
We'll
it's
get
an uphill battle to build anything, right? And
right.
particularly in such a niche space. But at the same time, it would seem that when the word gets out about this, because it is such a private community
Mhm.
of people who I think, like you talk about, would feel some sort of connection with one another, it's kind of like finding yourself in another country, and then you stumble across a fellow American or something like that, or you stumble across somebody who's like, I think you're from Chicago, right? So I'm from outside Chicago. You stumble across, we meet, right, in Italy or something like that. It's like, oh my gosh, you're from Chicago, hey, right? It's like we have this connection which is transcendent of the moment and transcendent of anything that we knew about each other. But all of a sudden, boom, you're my people. And it would seem that you would get a great following pretty quickly once people become aware of it. And I love the idea of going to therapists or doctors, the people who are already working with folks on these privately held issues. And because I would think that people don't want to talk about this at all. And it is interesting. The thing I'm thinking of in my mind is the commentary on our society where we reject people on the basis of something that not that it's unimportant, but on the basis of something that's not insurmountable. And how in such high regard we hold sex, when in fact, on the spectrum of the amount of time we spend with our partners, there's actually a marginal amount of time we spend actually having sex or intercourse with partners versus just living life. And yet it becomes like this supreme thing that we all bow down to, and say, and you're rejected, you're out. And furthermore, not only are you rejected, but I shame you because of it. And it's like, there's nothing you could do about it.
Right.
In some situations.
Yeah, it's true.
And why is that? And think of it on the order of things. So there's a fraction of the amount of time that you would spend with a partner that you feel like you couldn't perform in some certain area. And yet on the flip side, you might meet a person, let's say a guy out at a bar, who is a full-time asshole. Why is that somehow, why wouldn't be rejected based on that? Why would that person not go, oh, I should feel ashamed for just being a full-time asshole in my life?
I mean,
why should that not cause shame?
Right.
Right. Because that's a full-time thing. You got a part-time thing. They got a full-time thing.
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
so how do you address this? Do you address this in the dating app at all? Like this idea of or do you just bring people together, or is there educational content of how to deal with some of this stuff?
There's not educational. I started blogging, so I'm going to start putting some blogging on there, just examples of how to. I mean, it's hard to find. I was trying to find articles about how do you date with ED, or how do you date with sexual dysfunction, because I didn't know either. So I don't have any advice on there yet, but I think I'm going to start getting in there once I start talking to other people. But and one of the suggestions was, okay, to the man, if you're going on a date and you really like the woman, you don't want to tell her that you have ED right away. Make sure you have that connection first. Then invite her to your house. And then when she comes over, make sure you have a book about erectile dysfunction and just leave it on your coffee table. So when you're sitting there and she glances at it, you can grab it and say, oh, I wanted to talk to you about something. It's now that you saw this book, I had this ED, and I'm like, what? Like, why would you do that? Why would you want to get attached to this person and then bring them to your house and then tell them you have ED? And it's like, that's why I thought, just tell them right away. But I know that people don't want to do that, but that's why if you use Entwine, they know right away. But, and I thought, well, that's horrible. I mean, what are you going to do? Like, well, why don't you put on a documentary about erectile dysfunction? And then, once you guys watch that together and see if, then you'd be like, oh, by the way, I'm making you watch this because, so I don't know. I just don't like that.
I don't know about that. I think to me, and I know there's nothing funny about living this life, but to me, that sounds like an episode of like Seinfeld or something like that, where somebody invites him back and there's like, hey, you want to come over for a movie and a pizza? And, it's like, Joe has ED.
Yeah.
You're like,
I want to watch this movie.
And she's like, what are we doing here? This is a good movie. You're going to want to really pay attention. In fact, on 20 minutes in, things are going to get really informational. It does seem like a bait and switch, At least it seems that there's an opportunity to own one's story, right? And I get it. I mean, you don't want to. It's not something that you'd want to sit down with a person right out of the gate, probably in the first 5 minutes, and say, "Hey, listen, before we complete this glass of wine, I would like to let you know that I cannot, do whatever." That seems a little bit, quick. At the same time, though, there's so much more to know about a person, and just because you get emotionally attached, do you get, does it have to be emotionally attached in the first 2, 3, 4 dates? And also, why? I mean, out of curiosity, why does, I don't know. It's a different topic, just dating in general. But in terms of finding your people, there actually is. I do some stuff on TikTok, and there actually is a woman on TikTok who talks about vaginismus, okay, and her experiences with it, and how she talks to guys, and how she's experienced people who have been very kind about that and said, "Hey, I don't think that is all of your, is all of you. I'd rather just get to know you, and we can deal with that later." I think ultimately you want a person who could deal with that stuff anyhow, because that's the tip of the iceberg. I mean, you had cancer. That's a big deal. Eventually, we're all going to get some sort of sickness, it seems. If you can't deal with, if you just can't deal, if a person just is unable to deal with stuff, I mean, to your point of just announcing it pretty quickly in a relationship, if you just can't deal with life and the shit that life throws at you, why are you even here? Because if you're not gonna stick with me for that, why would I open up to you anyhow? That's my opinion. I'm a difficult door to open for sure. But it's like, why would I take 10 minutes to invest in you? If I mean, that's disingenuous, but let's say, why would I take 100 hours to invest in you, without you being able to invest in me back? What could possibly be the point is where I go in my mind. So I just shut down real fast.
And that's why I think that's why I say it right away. As I say, I can't have intercourse, and then it just brings out jerks. Because if I get a guy, I mean, I did get one guy that's just like, well, he tries to convince himself. He could tell, he's like, I really like sex, but I guess I don't really need it if I end up liking you a lot. And I'm like, no, that's not, just, it's okay. I don't want you to convince yourself that you're okay with it, But and if people are in a relationship, for a long-term relationship, and then one of them gets ED or some form of sexual dysfunction, then yeah, of course they should stay together. That would be ideal, right? But if I meet a new dude and he's just like, no, it's a problem right away, then I'm not going to get hurt because I'm not emotionally attached to him. So if I wait 3, 4, 5 dates, then I'm going to get really upset, and then I'm going to feel horrible about myself, because it is upsetting, that I can't have intercourse, and I never enjoyed it. And it's like, what the heck? I thought this was, supposed to be all exciting. My friends are talking about it, how great it is, and I'm like, I don't freaking hear that. But it's just the way I am, and I get it that a guy may not want to be with someone like me, because it's only human. And if I was with a guy and then my vagina broke, then he left me, that would be devastating, of course, But that's why I get rid of the jerks early on, and same with the women. I mean, they're not very friendly about it either. I mean, some of them are really into S&M, or whatever you call it. The stories I hear about that scares me, but like, I would never click with a guy like that, obviously, so. Yeah.
What have you done, out of curiosity, and I hope I'm not prying too much, what have you done to be able to deal with this topic without going deep into that shame story that so many of us deal with, and just to be able to own yourself in this space?
As far as, like, from new people that I meet, that I talk to them about?
No, just for yourself. I mean, because to be able to talk about this publicly is a big deal. So either you're a sociopath and you just don't care what people think, and I don't get that vibe from you at all, right? Or you've really owned this as part of as a part of you, as the holistic, the idea that we are holistic people. There's things that we can't control. There's things that we can control. There's things that we could control that we don't do anything about. There's things that that we get in our heads about and don't like, and we don't show to others because we're afraid of abandonment and not fear and all these other things. And coming into our own at some point in time, just owning all of that as part of us, gives us a strength and a power and a freedom to be able to communicate, which seems like you have. So what did you do? So if somebody's listening and they're like, man, I've been silently dealing with this issue. What do I do then? What did you do? What was the road like to come into your ownership of your own story?
I just thought I wanted to increase awareness. That's for one, because I feel like there's a lot of people that have this issue, vaginismus, that don't even know what it is. And my main goal was to help people. And to get the courage is just to be able to just talk about it and owning it. And it's just because I thought, you know what, there's a cure for me. There's a cure for vaginismus, but I don't want to cure it with the therapy for somebody else. So I said, like, I got to start thinking about myself. And I'm the one that's in pain. I'm the one that will even use the dilators. And eventually, if I do get successfully to the largest dilator, it's supposed to stretch out your muscles in there. Then I'm like, then what? I'm not going to enjoy it anyway because it's just never been enjoyable. So I said, well, I'm not going to act like somebody else. I'm not going to try to cure myself. And I mean, all the scars I have and everything, I mean, that doesn't bother me anymore. And I got these badass tattoos that I put on my chest anyway for that. But it's just, I need to talk about it because even if I didn't have my app, I think if I didn't create my app, I wouldn't have talked about it. I would have just shut up about it. And it's just the courage I got was because I know I'm not alone. And I know there's, I think, over 32 million men that have ED in the US. And there's over 300 million men in the world that have ED. Did I say ES? I meant to say ED. It's just, I just couldn't stay silent anymore. So, and that's why I think I'm more confident to talk about it because like I said, if I didn't do my app, I wouldn't have said anything. Because it is,
Wow.
People don't understand it. But once I do start talking about it, they're like, oh, well, okay, well, that makes sense. And not all guys are jerks either. Some of them are like, this is a good idea. I mean,
right. Yeah, that's good to know. That's good to know. And I don't think all guys are jerks, but it does seem like a preponderance of there is a preponderance of insensitivity that exists.
Yeah.
and it's I don't know. To me, it's unfortunate because everybody deserves. I saw a video the other day of just of this lack people who suffer from a lack of touch. Oh. And the physical characteristics and the mental characteristics and depression, anxiety, all these things, high blood pressure, all these things that increase when there is a lack of touch. They've studied this for years. They studied it with babies forever ago, that babies basically die if they don't receive touch. And that's why hospitals have, people who sit next to the baby in the incubators and touch them because it's super, super important. And adults do it as well. That we have physical characteristics. Our bodies suffer, our brains suffer when we lack touch. And so there are people, therapists, who in a safe space will give touch to somebody, just holding or whatever, so that a person can experience the necessary benefits of close human connection. Yeah, and so it would too, right? I don't know. It would seem that you're blazing that same trail, going down, further into how do we create these connections or enable these connections with similar people, or people who deal with similar issues that nobody wants to talk about, and hard to address, and they could be polarizing in certain circumstances. And then, if a person wants to, like you talk about, there are therapies you could go through in some certain situations, or there are health related matters that you could take upon oneself if you're dealing with diabetes or something like that. But while you're doing that, why not also connect with a similar individual on a sensitive topic? It seems like, I don't know, to me, it seems like not only a great idea, but also a real point of education for people who don't deal with this issue, to increase sensitivity and awareness, because I think that there's I filled out a profile once, and there's one of the questions was, what could the world use more of? And I was like, nothing. The world has everything it needs, but we could have a lot less shame, and that would work wonders.
Right.
Which is totally true, I think. Because that prevents human connection, this idea of shame. Or even when we do connect, we connect in dysfunctional ways with each other that are not honest. Not honest to ourselves, and certainly not honest to other people. And then we create dysfunction around us and hurt ourselves and others. So I applaud what you're doing here.
Thank you.
In terms of the education, it does seem, along the same vein, it seems like education is a huge opportunity for you in creating content around how to deal with these different aspects of sexual dysfunction and what a person can do about it while also connecting on your app.
Right.
So why do you not brand yourself, or are you going to brand yourself as an expert in this area?
I mean, I could be an expert, right? I'm learning as I go too. And like, I didn't know that diabetes can cause ED, and there's just a lot of, I want to start talking to some urologists too, and just to find out what are the other causes of ED that I'm not maybe thinking about. And some of them, Viagra may not work, so they use penile injections, and I heard that hurts. And then
I would bet.
Yeah, so I joined an erectile dysfunction group on Facebook just to see what these guys were saying, and this is similar things like, what kind of girl would want to be with me? I have ED, or I'm tired of using these penile injections because they're very painful, and I'm using it for my partner, but that's the only reason I'm using it. Otherwise, I would never use these things. And so it's the same thing with my therapy. Like, there's a cure, but I just don't want to do it because it's just too much pain. So I am definitely educating myself as I go, as far as what causes it and what people that have intermittent ED, because that it's sometimes the medication does work, but sometimes it doesn't. And there's so many different areas that I need to focus on and educate myself to learn, because I didn't know that there was like something called I don't even know how to pronounce it. It was another condition where a woman can't have intercourse because it's too painful. And I was like, I never even heard of that. So it's like, there's so many different things that I definitely am gonna research.
Yeah, I think, I mean, from the outside looking in, right, to your world, as you know it, it would seem like you could easily brand yourself as an expert and really unpack some of these topics. And not that you have to be the expert of the information, but the expert connector even to people with the information, because like you talk about, there's I mean, obviously I've never looked, but I've never heard of a dating app that would target folks with sexual dysfunction. And yet I would assume there are communities of people dealing with some of these issues, but searching those out has got to be extremely difficult. And because it is such a private matter, and like you talk about, I would guess there's a preponderance, a good number of people, let's say, who don't even go to therapy and never talk to anybody about it, and just live, what's the quote, living lives of silent desperation, which is absurd. On one level. Why would you go through life like that? And also very understandable of why you would go through life like that. And I would think getting content created and putting it out there for people on any platform, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, podcasts, would be a huge priority and a really great opportunity for sure.
It's just the word needs to get out for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're open to recommendations, I would go to TikTok and Instagram and do a search for vaginismus, and then connect with every person who's creating content around that and say, hey, I'd like to, I have this app to help people with this with this issue. And if you want to write something, or if you want to create a video, I'll put it on my blog and link it back to them, so that you could have content created for you by people who are already creating content, right?
And the thing, what I just thought about is that I did reach out to some that have vaginismus groups, or the vaginismus therapists, pelvic floor therapists, and I'll talk about my app. I said, hey, I know there's a cure for it, but I want you to know, for those that don't want to use the dilators anymore, because a lot of women were saying the same thing. I don't want to use these dilators anymore. They're too painful. And when I reached out to them, I said, can you talk about my apps for those that don't want to use the therapy? And like, no, your app more of a dead end app. And ours is, we're trying to find a cure for them. We're trying to help them with the therapy. So we'd rather not show them your app, because then that's just a dead end. And I'm like, well, you should give them the option.
Why is it a dead end? I don't understand the concept of a dead end.
Or
if
it's like they're giving up, I should say. They just gave up. My app is like, they gave up. Now what are they going to do? Oh, they can't cure themselves. They're going to use Entwine.
That's absurd. You've heard of Farmers Only or something like that, right? The dating app, and it's like that would assume that once you're a farmer, you're always a farmer, or once you're a farmer, you'll never do anything differently, or that you couldn't change or wouldn't change, or to me it's an absurd question. Or like somebody goes to a whiskey tasting. It's like, well, don't go to whiskey tasting because all you ever like is whiskey. Like, that's not true. I haven't explored the world enough, and I might find, over time, that something changes in me and my palate changes. I mean, your bodies can change. And if a person's dealing with this issue, and let's say it is an intermittent issue, why not have a safe space where, listen, things could change in me. Maybe you decide to go to therapy and you want to do this stuff over time. What's it to, why? I don't understand the idea of a dead end. I think let people experiment and connect people. And if nothing else, so what if two people meet each other on an app where they're both having a similar situation, and then one person's situation changes a little bit? Who's to say that connection is not valuable and that it wouldn't continue? It's an absurdity, I think, I would throw out anybody who calls it a dead end. I know I'm being a little bit hard on that.
But it was disappointing. There was even a prostate cancer organization, which I don't want to say the name of it because I think they're going to change their mind. I told them about my app, and they're like, this is great. There's so many men in our support groups that they just want that connection, and they're scared to go in. They don't want to get rejected. And this is depressed and even suicidal. I mean, they're like, this is great. We're going to put it in our newsletters. We're going to talk about it during the support group sessions. And I'm like, yay, I was so excited. This was one of my first calls. And then I called them back like a month later because I didn't hear from them. And they're like, well, I talked to my colleagues, and we decided that it's not, they decided that it's not prostate cancer specific, so we cannot promote your app. I'm like, but this is the majority of men that would have ED is someone that might have gone through prostate cancer. And so just to surface for them, and it's not fair. And she's like, I agree. But she's like, so then I thought, I'm talking to other people and hoping that I could get back into them and convince them, because it's true. I mean, I said, this is a free app. I'm not trying to make millions off of it. I just want to help people. That's my main goal. Yeah. And for you to just say no, it's you can't say because I'm, it's going to make me money. It's not. So just it's a little frustrating, the dead ends that I get, but I just too bad.
I want to encourage you, because I've worked and advised hundreds, and advised hundreds, maybe 1,000 or more entrepreneurs at this point in my career, and the number of no's that you will encounter is surprisingly high for a person who thinks they have a great idea. But if you press on to in something that you know about and you have passion about, and there's community for, it'll eventually take hold. But you just have to press. You just have to press on, and the people who will get it will get it. The people who won't, and just leave them by the wayside and move on. But expend no resources on a no. Go get the yes, especially early on, because it would seem, again, there are already people talking about these topics and have communities built. And that's where you want users, because if you have users on the platform, then anybody who could, any organizations who could, quote unquote, sponsor it or something like that, or get to their users, they'll eventually hop on board.
Yes, I'm
But
hoping that's what's going to happen.
it's going to be hard to find it'll be hard to find some leading organization, because organizations are already hamstrung by their own supply chains. They've got people that they need to take care of, in their organizations, and they've got people that they already talked to, and they've got limitations and differing beliefs and boards of directors and all sorts of stuff that you might have to deal with, which you don't need to deal with if you just go straight to the users. And I think the way to the users is through the content makers, the people who are already talking about this, who are already like you, who already have a voice, who have already found their space in the world to say, listen, I've dealt with this thing. Now I want to give back to the world to make the world a better place. Oh, you do too? Well, great. Let's partner up. I think you're going to find a lot of support in those communities. And I think you can find those very easily by doing keyword searches across Instagram, TikTok, for two quick areas, and certainly Facebook groups. But yeah, I think the Instagram and TikTok folks would be huge, because a lot of them aren't making any money off of this. They're just pushing content out, and they've got thousands or tens of thousands of followers in some cases.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look into that. That's a good idea.
And then if you start creating content, little micro content on TikTok,
mm-hmm.
I think it could be a pretty big opportunity for you. And then you tag it with hashtags for vaginismus or ED or erectile dysfunction or whatever those hashtags are. You could search those and find the popularity. But you make a minute and a half video about, unpacking your story. Hey, part 1 of my story, part 2 of my story, part 3 of my story, and then here's what I'm doing about it. And join me. I think that could be pretty impactful, not only just for the people who are dealing with this and might want to go on your app, but for other people who know somebody who's dealing with it. They might stumble across your content as well and introduce you to those folks too. It will cost you virtually nothing. It'll take a moment of your time every day. And I started my TikTok channel 2 months ago, maybe something like that. I post maybe 2 or 3 times a day now. And I have 1,000 followers, and one of my videos, for whatever reason, got almost 15,000 views and a bunch of shares and likes. And I just keep posting, and one of them got 8,000 viewers. It's for whatever reason. And all it is, how the process I take is, something comes into my mind. Usually it's on a walk or sitting there quietly, doing devotionals or something like that. I'm thinking, okay, something comes to my mind. I'm like, oh, here's a little topic. And I do a short, could be 30-second, could be 15-second, could be a minute and a half long video. I type a little bit of description in there. I put a title on it, press go. And sometimes I'm walking around, I'm like, man, I got idea after idea after idea after idea. And I just hold my phone up to my head and I go, hey, hey friend, here's blah, 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 blah. And I talk about it for just a little bit. And then I put it in drafts and I'll pull it out later. But it literally takes maybe 20 minutes a day. And it's all part of my own thinking process. Instead of me just thinking the thought in my head and going, oh, I wish I could talk to somebody about this, I go ahead and talk to somebody about it and put it out. It clarifies my own thoughts and gets the community going. And I don't get any money off of it. I get nothing out of it other than bringing joy that I know that somebody at some point thinks it's valuable, and what they do with it, with their life, that's what I want. I mean, that's the whole point of Coffee with Humans, is bringing people together who normally would not be able to be brought together over topics they never would have talked about.
It's great. Great ideas. I'll have to plug into that. I wanted to reach the veterans too, because somebody was saying that, I don't know if the statistics are right, but they said, what about men that have ED? How do they date? Don't you realize that 1 in 6 veterans that commit suicide is because of sexual dysfunction? And I was like, is that true? So I tried to research it. I couldn't really find the exact statistics, but it would say, like, therapists would say, like, right a month prior to the person committing or attempting suicide, they were saying that it was because of ED. And or even in women, sexual dysfunction, because of whatever they went through, Agent Orange or the medication they're on, whatever it is. And I thought, geez, that's messed up. for someone to,
Yep.
to think that they're alone and they don't have an answer, when now I've created an answer, and that's why it's like I want to get to those people before they even think about that point, because it's never worth taking your life because of for anything, but
It's
especially for that.
it
And
is
there's
so unfortunate, but it is one of those things. It's so intimately connected to our psyche that we feel it's a loss of self, right? If we, in some ways, I would suppose, if we can't express ourselves sexually, and certainly, for guys, I know I've done a bit of reading over the years, and I know for guys, one of the way a man experiences the closest intimacy is through sex, and everything up to that point is like, okay, but it is that moment, and that space created, which is also why sex shouldn't be misused in, and just become this, free flowing thing, because it screws up people's ability to connect intimately. When you can connect with everybody intimately, then there's no real deep connection. And I would think from a topic standpoint, getting to talk about those types of things as well would really help people deal with their loss of identity and self and connection when they can't express themselves sexually, because it's never about just sex. Sex is not just sex. It is the intimacy and the connection, or the proxy. Too often it's like, well, sex is a proxy to intimacy. That is not true at all. It's not possible. Right? So how do you reclaim real, true, close connection and intimacy with another human being when you can't express yourself sexually how you think you should?
Right.
That's real interesting topic. I'm so happy that you came on here to talk about this. And again, I honor your courage to be able to be able to own it in this space, and talk about it publicly for a world, I think, that needs to become aware of these topics, and have, I think, maybe a deeper appreciation for each other and the things that we all deal with. And I think that as you're discovering, there's a whole world of things that you didn't know about this topic as you start opening it up. And if you are the conduit to get the word out, and you do it via a dating app, I think you could change your corner of the world.
Thank you. I'm really
Wow.
excited about
Well,
to hear success stories. That's
right? Exactly. That'd be so good. Well, I'm super excited to see what you're going to do with this in the future.
Thank you.
And where you'll head. I think you have just a really great opportunity. And again, it's such an important topic, for all of us. And relationships in general, like I mentioned before, relationships are difficult, but you add another layer of complexity around inability to somehow complete the relationship, in the way that we have expected to complete it. That's got to be just another layer of difficulty. So thanks for what you're doing in the world.
For having me on here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, this has been another episode of Coffee with Humans, and I'm so excited to have met with Anna this past hour. I would invite you to go to her app. If you deal with this sort of issue, go to entwinedating.com. And even if you don't, go there and learn a bit, and then give some support to your neighbor. Certainly, the folks who you think, man, you just don't want to talk about your stuff. People do want to be known. They do want to be seen. They do want to be connected with, and don't shame somebody for something that they can't control. So thanks, Anna. We'll catch you all next time. Subscribe and share on YouTube. You can also catch us on Facebook, Twitch, sometimes LinkedIn, and more. This has been Coffee with Humans.
One of the things I love about Coffee with Humans are the raw conversations I get to have, meeting new people just like you. If you or someone you know should be on Coffee with Humans, go to coffeewithhumans.com. Remember, the only rule is no sales calls.
This has been Coffee with Humans. Subscribe to get updates or click to have coffee with me. coffeewithhumans.com.